Hello and welcome to FPL Without Borders. We are back again with one of the most important episodes, with one of the most important pods on whether or not you should free hit in Gameweek 29. It is now coming down to last 9 game weeks, critical junction, make or break at least 500k to even people climbing up by 1 million if you are close to or less than 100k rank. This is one video which you should definitely watch. This might help you climb up or not. Prepare yourself for better wildcard or better chip strategies. So let's deep dive in. Now, whenever you consider, and we've done a free hit chip earlier as well. So if you do keep liking our content, Arslan, Essen, and me have worked on this. We keep creating slides. Please hit likes and share and subscribe. YouTube's algorithm now helps us when you engage. So please do that. And we've done a larger video on, or a longer video on, how to use your free hit, what are the optimal thoughts that you should have, and the 10 pointers to consider when you're using your free hit chip as a chip in itself. But here we are discussing why and who should free hit in 29 specifically. And hence I've called Arslan, who's currently at the highest rank amongst the three at 69k and who's looking to finish again in top 10 or top 5k. Um, so yeah, so starting off with why and who should free hit right now. Like there are multiple teams, there are multiple players who are or teams that are going around which are facing injuries. So um, or especially in the last 2 3 weeks, you've seen the likes of Cunha, Mateta, people who had invested heavily, who were returning well, getting a red arrow. So if you have like 4 to 5 players who are in your reds, so in your screen, like you can see there's Hall, there's Gordon, there's Cunha, there's Mateta, who are still not sure whether you can play them, definitely something to consider. Consider if this gives you a rank boost. Consider how you can sort of maneuver in the next 2 3 game weeks, assuming you have a wild card left and you will be able to take that wild card in anywhere between 31 to 34. So number one is injuries. So check if you have like 4 5 injuries, you're not even able to stand up 7 players in your squad. I think you should definitely consider this. The second thought process is you. I know most people are recommending not going with this, and we also personally, like we three, have thought of not going ahead with this. The reason is because we do think that 31 and 32 can have changes, or 32 and 33 can have changes. However, if you climb on them now, and if you feel that hey, I can do a very big rank climb with the players that I have, and if you have those players in the form of Liverpool, Palace, Villa, and Newcastle, and you can see those in the screenshot again, like your Sarge, your Munos, your Matetas. You haven't had the chance to remove them. You haven't had the chance to remove Salah. Salah, I'm 100% sure you would have a lot of value uh, instilled in him. You have Trent. People have Isak and Gordon. A very very strong consideration to then go and free hit. Note that it is not a and free and FPL is a strange game, right? Like I know people would recommend that taking it back and playing an ideal strategy, but there is an option of playing a different way based on what your team is. So look at your squad first. Look if it is injured. Look free hit is the best way to field a competitive squad. And if you have like 4 to 6 players who are from Liverpool, Palace, Villa, and Newcastle, you should definitely consider. Don't worry, you have enough time till 34. You would fall back. Second process. Yeah, Arslan, you can. Do you feel
One
that that's making
yeah,
sense?
one thing to add, like nice points made. So I on top right, I put one quick stat. So in the top 10K, 73% people own Isak, Salah, and Trent, all three of them, which is a very big chunk, obviously. And then if you add the likes of, as you mentioned, Gordon and Cunha and Isak, which people also and Mateta, this becomes a big issue. And so injuries adding up with the blankers becomes a bigger issue. Like if you asked like 2 weeks ago, Mateta wasn't injured, Cunha wasn't banned, Gordon wasn't injured. Gordon is anyways blanking. But the point is, 2 weeks ago there weren't as many injuries and red flags. So it was a different scenario, but right now it's a different scenario. One more thing. So you mentioned team specific, obviously. So if you're loading up on Liverpool, Crystal Palace, and Newcastle, 29 they blank, but Newcastle has Brentford at home in 30 and Leicester away in 31. Liverpool has Everton at home in 30, and Crystal Palace has Southampton away in 30. So all these are peach fixtures for players you wouldn't own if you sell them. So free hit in that scenario also becomes very attractive if you're loaded up on those assets.
Yeah, that's a great point actually. And that 10K ownership is really surprising. Like if you have Trent, Salah, and Isak as 73% of 10K, that means all three of them people are trying to navigate all the time how who to get better. And if you're able to gain like 20-30 points, we have seen that 20-30 points in a single game week above, because these three players will not play. Most likely people will sell Trent, of whatever we are seeing on Twitter and other channels will try to sell Trent and maybe take a defender, but they'll hold on to Isak and Salah, especially with the value they have, which means you have an option if you sell Salah or if you sell Isak and get like a Haaland and he scores like double, or and a Foden who has double digits, because you will be able to afford them with these two players. Your rank might gain by at least 20, or at least points might gain by 20-30. That means your rank could increase easily between 100 to 100k, because that's how tight the game weeks have become and that's how close you are to the finish line. So yeah, that's a great point.
Exactly. And I think like not just look at 29, but 29 plus 30 together. Like it's for both free hitters and non-free hitters. That's how I think you should look at this. Anyways.
Totally. And spot on, because if your squad, and that's what we've mentioned in the last point as well, if your squad is suited for taking 30 right now, so like Munoz has a very good game, Sar has a good game, Mateta has a good game. I think you would want Isak for 32 because there is a double game week coming up. So if you're and Salah has a Everton home as well, so or and Trent as well. So you are not necessarily looking at it, if you have those players now and you think that, hey, I can actually prolong my wildcard to 34 and hold them on now, it is still a very good idea to, or I mean, it could be a good idea to do free hit 29. One thing which, to me, which even I am scared, and I'm sure you are at the same time while being a City fan, is the second point, is the fact that if City explode, City are, and we'll come to Rob T's numbers, and that's a later part of our conversation, that they are the only team who are slated to score 2+ goals or 2.2 plus goals in this game week, which means that if City explode, which means the likes of Foden, Savinho, arguably Mamush, and Haaland, if they come back returning, your rank hit is going to be, because they are all differential right now. So because they have a relative low ownership, if you take a free hit and you hit on them, the differential rank gains that you'll have will be really, really effective in the long term. And we've seen like how one or two explosions is all you need to gain like 300, 400k this season. So that's the second point. And the third is definitely because of the uncertainties we have in 33 and 34, and the fact that we now know that only Newcastle are double gaming in 32 and then 33 might be Palace, we should be okay with. You have time from now to 34 to prepare a team for free hit, or to go without free hit, the same way the way you had if for the people who are not free hitting now, to prepare till 29. So if you do free hit now and if you think that, hey, I might end up losing on 34. No, not really, because you can prepare your team till 34 while incorporating especially if you have Palace and Newcastle, because you will need them for 32, 33. So if you have them and you then need to go to 34, you can store on 2, 3, 4 transfers and then just move on from there and take it.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. People will start buying these assets. You'll already have them, so you'll bank those
exactly,
transfers.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Walking into 34, if you have 5 free transfers, uh, that's not bad.
Correct. Yeah. And people have saved transfers. I have from whoever in my circle as well. I know people have at least two transfers now, so you can always carry. We can.
All
So
right.
we've created two drafts. We didn't want to clog your mind too much. So we created two basic drafts of, because we wanted to have a look at like a summary of players who you should target, and like you can see in both these drafts, they are heavily invested in City. And the reason for City investment, like we mentioned in the in our last point, is the fact that they will help you gain rank. Like they are your rank gainers. You can see Wood in both as well, but Wood has extremely high EO, so much so that Arsan is scared of not owning him. So, but you are in this game week. If you're not owning Haaland, is when you are actually scared, because he's one who has a potential. Again, all the stats that you've seen, all the probabilities, all the odds that you're seeing, he's the highest to score maximum number of goals, which means he might quite likely will have. Which means if you don't have him, or if you're trying to force fit him right now, you might be able. And he's not a player who people are going to get easily. Like you might have to sell three, four, five players, which would have an impact in your future game weeks. If you have those transfers, if you don't, then you might take a hit, which is also quite likely, and a lot of people are doing. So expect that to happen too. With that, these are the two primary drafts. Just to read it out for our pod listeners, it's the first draft which we feel has a very good upward potential is Cells in goal, Aina, Aitnuri, Guardiol in defense, Bumo, Fernandez, Odegaard, Foden, Kluivert, and then Wood and Haaland as our strikers, and Haaland cap with Evanilson, Mikolenko, and Burgess as our bench, and Areola as our second keeper. Now, in this draft, primarily the thought process is having Odegaard as a differential. The, we've spoken enough about the three city assets. Odegaard is a differential because Arsenal will still try to go back and change the.
Guilty. Sorry, my
No, no,
screen
good.
stopped sharing. One sec. Yeah.
Do you want to continue? All good.
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
Okay. So Odegaard is your differential. I mean, there are a lot of differentials here. Haaland is a differential. Foden's a differential. So is Guardiola. None of them are highly owned currently. So having these three as your players is directly adding value. Think of a scenario, right? City can easily win the game 3-2 or 3-1 as well with a Guardiola assist, Foden and Haaland contributions. You want that to happen. They are going for top four. The top four race is bang on, is really tight, and they will go and attack. So it's not going to, and Brighton are going to open up. So not that City will not concede, but they will also score goals. So be open to that scenario, which is likely going to happen. And the more odds, the more sort of analysis that you read, you are realizing that City are the ones to target in this. Bruno has just scored a hat trick, so we are speaking right after the United game. So people, again, to have Haaland and Bruno in your team, if you don't have him already, is a lot of money. Now that is why you see Bruno in both our recommended drafts. And then again, you have the likes of Clivert and Bumo. If you haven't had him, you can have him. Ait Nouri is taken in because of Southampton. So Southampton are one of the weakest in, I mean, lowest in XG conceded, one of the weakest in scoring goals. So definitely someone to target. I mean, had there been Cunha, we would have gone for him, but we don't have. So I think Ait Nouri does make sense to hold on. So
Um,
yes,
while we're on Man City assets, which three do you think are the best to own? Like, I think obviously Haaland is a constant if you especially on free hit. Apart from that, like Foden, Savinho, that's one option. And then on defense, I think Guardiol slash Ederson, some people are thinking. Um, to me, like Haaland and Guardiol are like I think should be locked in your free hit teams. Midfield spot, I think, and this is my opinion, like let me know what you think. But I think you should wait for a league because generally you get city leagues,
good
and
point.
whoever sort of starts, you take your decision there. So Marmoush might start, Foden might start, Savinho might not start. So on City, I think that's how I'm thinking of it.
That's a great point. I think you hit the nail on your head. I think the most And it's difficult as well. Two lines of thinking. One is anyone who's free hitting will have Haaland and Guardiola. The third player is who might add a difference. Number one, and again, free hit versus non-free hitters as well. No one will have both of them because of the amount they carry. And number three is if Savinho starts, he's playing in the top four, top three of attack. Or if Foden starts, he's also likely to. So definitely someone. But yes, targeting three Man City players is something which will separate you from the non-free hitters and even the people who have been chasing. So that's how the thought process is. And yes, it does make sense to have Haaland and Guardiola at least.
For a couple of quick stats. So, expected goal involvement wise, Haaland, Foden, Savinho, and Guardiola have been the top four Man City assets when you're looking at expected goals involvement. So Foden and Savinho, although people are a bit shaky on them, they have been putting some numbers, expected numbers behind. They haven't really converted into points much, but the underlying data is there. And even for minutes, Savinho has logged in pretty decent minutes. So if you're looking at last 10 game weeks, Haaland has around 780 minutes, and Foden has 720, and Savinho has 690. So a bit less, but more recent. If you start looking at more recent data, he's been playing. He's been starting. So I think Pep Guardiola definitely sort of prefers him on the right, at least right now. Obviously, like this comes with a disclaimer that it's Pep Guardiola, and you can obviously Pep roulette happens, but hence I'm suggesting wait till the league to make your transfer, because generally you do get Man City leagues and there are no early kickoffs. I think all the games sort of start at the same time.
That is
Uh,
correct. Yeah, I was coming to that. Yeah, all three games start at the same time, like the three starting games on Saturday, and it's a late deadline as well. So 100% you can wait till kickoff. That's a very good point. We can move ahead in that case.
yeah. Um, cool.
So here we have given you a bucket of players to consider, and we'll then go back in at the end to see how they sort of line up with the non-free hitting, or if you're still undecided and you're 50-50, um, even after uh, the pitch that we are making. But these are the bucket of players that you should definitely look at. So we saw Cells and Pickford, Cells and Ariola as one of the two options. Go ahead,
And
Arslan.
like this is looking at free hit 29, but also people who are looking to wildcard
Correct.
in 30, 31. And these players I think fit that criteria.
Spot on. Yes, that's a very good call out. The reason for that wildcard 31 call out is because you're now targeting 3 game weeks, which means you can go all in on the 3 game weeks and then plan for 31 to 38 on that, or 30 to 31, whatever, on those wildcards. So who do you think you should target? Cells, definitely Forest. So like City, Forest are going to now go top four. They are only in FA Cup. They don't have any other competition to play. So definitely a player to target. Hence, you can see in our defender recommendations as well. There's Aina, there's Williams. Williams is like a 4.4. Aina is 5.3. Milenkovic is 4.8. Um, Players across the sort of scale of amount, you can target anyone based on you shouldn't have money issues because you don't have Salah, you don't have Palmer, you don't have Salah or you don't have Trent in your defense, so you can definitely, and Isak, so you can target them with money. But if you don't, you always have a Williams. Williams is doing well. Milenkovic is the most nailed, and Aina is another one who's overall performed well through the season, but he's the most expensive. Then there's Aitnuri, Gabriel, Mazrui, and Dallo because United are playing Leicester away, and Leicester are the lowest for XG, um,
Conceded.
XGC, or
Yeah.
conceded again, so they can be targeted. Guardiola, like we mentioned, Tarkowski because they're Everton and they're playing West Ham at home, so they can keep a clean sheet and they have conceded on corners. Kirkes, Van Bissaka, Cresswell, in case you have like budget issues. Kirkes, Bournemouth playing at home against Brentford, and Agbudu, 4.5 million, or sorry, 4 million
4 million.
enabler. sorry, yeah, 4 million enabler, Southampton. If you're not, if you want someone to just hold your bench, who's in case of last minute changes, he's your player. So you will see a couple of recommendations who are just for enablers. Like in midfield, that's one area, and that's someone who you can target. But otherwise, I think there are better options. I think midfield is somewhere you definitely should look at the likes of Savinho, Foden, Semenyo, Bowen as well, Muntesi. Arslan was almost about to take him last game week, and he had a recommendation. So Southampton is a targetable fixture. So I know there's no Cunha, but you will see names like Strand Larson and Muntesi in this list. Uh, Gibbs White and Elanga, they are playing Ipswich away. Definitely someone to target. Bruno, Bumo. Now Palmer. I know this is a huge conversation going on. People are considering to remove Palmer to get in Haaland. We just did a small XG comparison of where players have been in terms of XG since game week 20. So there's been 8 game weeks since then, and Palmer is still in top five. At least the players in consideration right now, which and you could see like he is getting chances. So if you're taking like a -8 to remove Palmer and get a Haaland or someone, you should think twice. Like unless you're free hitting and you the reason of keeping him in this list is because you're free hitting. So you're free hitting with Haaland, then yes, you should consider him because you shouldn't take him as someone that I don't think the Palmer negativity is totally justified because he's been in positions, he got the chance, he had a penalty, he didn't score, which is okay, and they have gone through the next round of their conference league as well. Um, so they are in two competitions and they will try to win as many games. Again, top four competitors, City, Chelsea, Forest are players who are going to target their top four, top five ambitions. So having players from those sides are never a bad idea because they will go for goals.
And Palmer
Uh,
still, like as you said, like he's top four in XGI, and then also they play Tottenham and Brentford
Good point.
even after 29. So people who are like for people who are considering who are not on a free hit and considering how to get Haaland, it's not as easy of a debate. We didn't touch
That's
that
true.
topic too much, but they do have good fixtures. So yeah, just a point to consider.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Yeah, especially if the, the reason you keep Palmer is and you keep Haaland and Palmer is when you've decided that you don't keep Salah. And if you are not so because Palmer has Ipswich in 32. Okay, and I was just doing this analysis in the background, and you can see if you go to our fixture planner. Yeah, City has Crystal Palace, so like Haaland has Palace, Liverpool has West Ham, and Palmer has Ipswich, which means you're most likely to, yeah, there you go. So, which you're most likely to target Palmer in this game week. And if you think that, hey, this is my captain, so this is a case where you hold on to Palmer and not Salah. But when we are talking free hit, all hands down, you should go in Palmer. We would not recommend not holding unless you have budget constraints and you can then sort of move around your other players.
And you shouldn't have budget constraints on free hit because there's no
That's true.
Salah. So you have like so and no Trent. So you have all the money you need.
Correct.
Palmer, you shouldn't go against. People are like, yeah, no,
Yeah,
don't go
people are
against him.
pretty negative on that. Yeah, surprises me too. And a few considerations in strikers, which apart from Haaland and Wood, because I believe if you are free hitting, you should those two are your bankers. Like you shouldn't go against them. One is Marmoush, and I'll come to you on that, Arslan, because I want your opinion on Marmoush, Foden, and Savinho. But Pedro, I think he's another one where City's defense is a bit unlikely. Visa is number one. Look at his numbers. Like he's 6.38 on XG over since gaming 20. And Arslan, you have owned him for the last few game weeks, and he's reaped your rewards. And I think Essen had mentioned in one of our pods. That's why we keep telling you, please listen to few of our eagle eyes because they do come good. And he's given you good rank. One of the highest, not one of the highest for XGs since 20. And again, Brentford are a team that are going to target Europe this season. So he's one player to see. Xerxes only for this. He had a great game today. So Xerxes only for this game week is somewhere if you can hold him, you can. If you can buy him for the free hit and you want to go ultra differential. And Jimenez and Beto are someone who you can buy for less than 6 million. Beto is 5 point something, so even lesser if you want to hold someone on your bench and you think you have better. But
Yep.
my point on this was, and a question to you, Arslan, was between Mamouche, Foden, and Savinho, if you were to rank the three in terms of importance, if you were going double city attack, who would that be? Or even triple
So
for that matter.
yeah, so that's an interesting discussion. And the problem is that there have been so many injuries and this and that, we haven't really seen one consistent team playing every week. So hence, I'm looking at when I'm looking at data for City, I'm looking at very recent data, because that basically shows you who Pep is being preferring. So if I look at, let me pull this on the screen. Let me know. Can you see Fantasy for Football Hub?
I can.
Yeah, so if you look at minutes for the three of them, so I've filtered this down to the last 4 game weeks only. And reason being, again, I want to look at recent data for City. So Haaland is obviously number one when it comes. And wait, for XGI, Haaland is number one, Savio is two, Marmoush is three, and then Doku and then Foden is a bit down the lane. And but what I would look at with that is number of minutes. So um, Haaland was out for 1 game, so hence due to injury, hence his numbers are less. But if you look at Savinho and Marmoush and Foden, Savio has had the most minutes in the last 4 weeks, while Foden and Marmoush have had less. So in terms of just the probability of him playing more minutes is more, and then even like XGI wise, he's number two, a little ahead Marmoush and Foden. Foden's form has recently dipped a little, so if I were to pick one, I would pick Savinho, assuming he starts. And again, like wait for the league. Whoever starts, I would then decide. But right now, I would rank Savinho number one. And also, like he's also cheaper than Foden, so it just makes it easier. Another issue with Marmoush is he takes up a striker spot, and on free hit, it's fine. I think Marmoush is playable as a striker. But if you're not on a free hit, then your striker spots are very limited because you're maybe holding Isak, and then you have Wood, and then you have Haaland or Vissa or Mateta, and then you don't have space for third striker. So midfield spot I feel is more playable. So hence I would say Savinho is better, um, at least in the next 2 to 3 game weeks.
That's a great
And I
point.
am
And
actually considering on non free hit. I am considering buying him. I haven't
wow,
finalized yet, but for me it's between Savinho and Bruno.
wow, okay. That's a major call because if you're considering Savinho versus Bruno for a game, for at least 3 game weeks, that to me sounds like your Haaland, Savinho, and then any third attacker between
Yeah.
Mamouche.
The problem is Savinho is he's been putting up underlying numbers, but conversion hasn't been there. So when you're getting any of the City assets, in fact, like including I think Haaland, you're expecting them to improve considerably compared to what they've been recently playing and go back to their like normal form, which can happen as our players have been coming back, but it's still a little question mark. But again, like number wise, City is the best team to target, not just because they're expected to score most, but also their assets are the least owned right now. So rank gain wise, it just makes sense. It's a good combo, like attacking players with less ownership. So rank wise, I think that's the team to
Yep,
target, as you said.
that's a that's a great point because it's just to see Savinho's ownership is like less than 3%, 2.6. So like amazing differential, if that is. So
Dude, you
that's a
know how
call.
much what's Haaland ownership right now in the top 100K? I think it's one less than 2%. It's 1 point
Oh my
something
god.
percent.
Oh my god.
Yeah. This is the Haaland trend on
Astonishing.
Twitter is, I think it's more like Twitter, like people are posting a lot. It's just a trend that people are moving into Haaland, especially for, I'm talking about non-free hit. Like on free hit, Haaland obviously it's no brainer. Non-free hit, it's not as no brainer as people are making it sound on Twitter, is what I'll say.
Hmm. It's a very, very, very interesting data point because so two things, man. Like I think if you are to listen to our eagle eye for today, coming in from Arslan live, is that target Savinho, if that is someone who is your city asset, and number two, uh, Haaland's ownership is less than 2% in the top 10K. So if you're in and around that rank, and if you can afford Haaland, he's going to become a massive differential for you to climb rank. So two takeaways or two sort of eagle eyes from
Yeah.
Arslan and the City fan for today.
So
That's
one thing is Haaland's upside because of his less ownership, and the other thing is the risk of not owning him is not as high.
that is true. That is true. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, I think it's a good list. Like 1 point on Jimenez. Jimenez, I think, has the best one of the best fixtures as a striker. He's playing
Correct.
Tottenham as home. The
Yep.
only caveat is his minutes are a bit risky. Like he generally plays 70 to 80. I think which is fine. Like Tottenham was playing against what whichever team it was. I don't even like Alcaraz or whatever
Today, yeah.
in Europa.
Aikmar,
They
AZ Aikmar, yeah.
yeah they conceded two in the like two goals in the fixtures as well. Their
Tottenham
defense is
defense, you always can, man. Tottenham defense
yeah
is a banker, so
fixture
yeah,
to target.
good points. Okay, so let's sort of come to who should not free, right? Like the likes of none amongst the three of us are, and we three are at different targets during our season as well. So if you are at someone who's targeting top 5K like Arslan and top 10K like SN and then top 500K like me, uh, whether you should or should not, one or one of the few reasons which we think you should not is when you have at least 7 to 8 players right now in your squad who can make an appearance in 29. Like, see, there are chances that because of the tight game lines and with Europe and everything that is going on, that players might get benched. But if you have players who you see from your squad who are like 7 to 8 who you can play, um, and then get to a 9 player or a 10 player team with a -4 as well, only in this game week. And again, Arsan mentioned a great point. Think of it as 29-30. So to Haaland's point, if you have like 4 5 transfers, if you get to Haaland, you're now buying him from 29, 30, 31. And then maybe you sort of wild card or maybe think that, hey, do I need to pivot till 34? So with those sort of strategies, if you have players like this, uh, you only then is when you shouldn't free it. So if you have like 7, 8, 9 players, you can reach 10 or 11 or even 8 or anywhere between 8 to 10. You should not free it. Another point, and I think this is something which people are thinking or and they can say if you make one transfer now out of the two that you have or three that you have or four whatever, or you make two transfers now and you save like one or two, Man City against Leicester, that could be a 3 or 4 nil easily because Leicester are the lowest. Leicester have been conceding. They are almost certain to now drop down. They haven't had like wins for quite some time. That is a bigger upside than this upside, and the reason for that is because that is where your uh, players are going to outscore the other players in and around your rank. A lot of people can still free hit now and get to the kind of players that they want. But in free hit 30 or in game week 30, the upside for a Haaland or a Savinho that we just discussed or a Guardiola is going to be much higher than what it is going to now because there will be no one who's free hitting and everyone would be trying to get to those players uh, with hits in that team. So if you're able to get there, you can chase the upside in that. So that's a definite case. I saw you nodding there, Arslan. So I believe you have a
Yeah,
thought process on that.
yeah. I think like this makes sense. So if you have 7 to 9 players, take hits and manage if possible. And reason being because as you wrote it here, not a high upside week. On top right, if you see like um, top 6 teams which have the easiest fixtures attacking wise according to Fantasy Football Hub, it's Everton, Fulham, Bournemouth, Leicester, and then Man City and Southampton. Which teams out of these 6 can you confidently say, oh, I want like this is a high upside team apart from City? Like I don't Bournemouth maybe, but I don't feel too confident about it. So if the general rule of thumb that we also shared in our free hit guide video, 2 points I would like to mention here. One is chase like target high upside teams against low XGC teams, like high XG teams against low XGC teams. And that's not really happening in this week. Even Man City is playing Brighton at home. Brighton in the last 4 or 5 weeks has improved considerably. Like they have not conceded a lot of chances, and they've I think won like 3 or 5 games or something. So that's
Correct.
one
Yeah.
point. Number 2 point, um, the 25 point that we mentioned as a benchmark, right? Your non-free hit team and make an imaginary free hit team. Um, and even like consider it for 2 weeks. So 29 plus 30. Does your free hit 29 plus 30 team outscore your non-free hit team by 20 to 25 points? If not, then don't free hit. Like it's not needed. You can manage without it, and you can maybe make a couple of transfers and chase upside. Who would you try chase for upside? You would chase City assets. And although like Man United is not in this list, they're playing Leicester away. You could chase Bruno, or if you don't have the budget, go for Garnacho or whoever's starting. You think will start. So yeah, those 2 points here.
No, great points. I think, especially with you're spot on about the XG considered the XG scoring chances difference, and none of them are like too high, and like Brighton and City are literally around each other. Like I think a rank here and though in the table, so it is going to be a tough game. Like it could easily be like a tactical battle where both the managers try to go for it and could be a 2-2. I do see goals in that. With all, I do think it could be a 2-2 or a 3-2 or 3-1 or whatever. But I do think that it is going to be a tough fixture for both these teams. So yeah, so the upside is limited. So hence, and you made a good point that we had discussed this in our previous free hit video that we created. So do go into that and have a look as one of the points to target when you are considering a free hit or if you're still undecided about it. And lastly, like we discussed that even previously as well, the unknowns are quite a lot. So unknowns are 30, 34. We know till now that only Newcastle are doubling in 32. Palace might double in 33. Fulham could double in between anywhere between 33 to 34. You don't know that. You want to keep your transfers. The good part about this season is you can save your transfers for free hit, save your transfers when you wildcard. Do that. Uh, Manage this game week. Hope the scales don't tilt against you. Again, it can be wild, but if they don't, if you come out of it, I think again Arslan made a good point. If there is a 25 gap that you're targeting when you're free hitting versus when you're not, then it does make sense to free hit. So then look at the first 4 or 3 4 points that we have made. If you think that hey, my team can outscore my current team or game week 30 team by 25 30 points, go for it. It's
Yeah.
not to discourage you, but that's the kind of target that you need to have. Yeah.
And Spurs won today, which means the possibility of game week 36 has improved.
Okay.
So yeah, that's one caveat.
Yeah, and with all the ideas that we have hopefully sown in your head, which is to take a free hit if you do feel like, again, we are no one to tell you not to. Our ideal strategy, if you're in a certain game week, we are to not do this and hold your transfers. But if not, these are possible uh, game week chip strategies that you can target if you are free hitting or if you're not.
And we'll do a detailed chip strategy video separately. Um, so yeah.
And
Oh,
for non-free hitters, I think this has to be right. So a final view of the players you would buy and till for free hit 29, and the players who you buy if you're not free hitting and you'll buy till wildcard 31 if the way we are mentioning. The reason of keeping these sets in front of you is to make you realize that the players are literally similar, which means that if you have a few of these players and if you can go ahead and like buy a couple or three, maybe with a hit with three or maybe four with a hit, -4 again, -8 is too difficult to justify, but -4 is something that you can justify in a blank game week. If you can get to these set of players for with a -4, then don't free hit. Hold on till wildcard 31 and hold your free hit till 33, 34, whichever game week that you want to sort of target with this. And you see most of the players that are there in the left bucket are in the right bucket as well for all goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, and strikers, which you want to buy till game week 31. So like your Haaland, your Woods, your Savinos, your uh, Kirkes, your Elangas, if you're actually targeting Ipswich, because uh, Forest have Ipswich and United at home, so which is not a bad fixture at all. So they remain similar and they have a high upside, so something to look forward to, and hence the hesitancy in going for a free hit. Again, like we mentioned, it has an upside. So if you see your squad which has an upside of 25, 30 points, go for it.
Go for
But
it.
if you are still someone you're balancing, go ahead and look at that. Anything else to add, Arslan?
No, I think pretty much covered it all. Thank you all for listening. This was our free hit discussion, more of a discussion, and hope you got some insights out of it. Tomorrow we'll be coming up with our Game Week 29 preview, and we'll be sharing our team plans as well. So yeah, good luck with Game Week 29, and may your ranks be green.
Thanks, everyone.